Welcome to the Two-Way Street podcast with Rick Harris of Work Boot Consulting and Rob Berry of St. Louis Bath and Renovations. Our aim is to bridge the gap between contractors and consumers. Remember, communication is always a two-way street.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. This is the Two-Way Street podcast with Robert Berry and my friend Rick Harris. Today we're going to be talking about perception. How do you perceive others? How do others perceive you? What image are you putting out there for your clients to see? And we might be talking about customers as well, and customers, what you can do as far as perception when a contractor comes to see you and give you an estimate. But today's focus is going to be mostly on contractors. Contractors, how are you showing up? Take it away, Rick.
Yeah, it makes sense. So you and I were talking a little bit earlier before we hopped on here about how I like to be perceived. And so when I was on the tools as a contractor, doing whatever it was, slinging mud, pipe, whatever, framing or whatever it was, I had site clothes that I would put on, which means that I would show up to work to the job site dressed in a certain way, usually, uniform, whatever it was. But I would get changed there, or when I was doing plumbing, I'd have coveralls I'd put on. So it was important for me that people perceived me as a tradesperson or contractor, but not somebody who was rolling around underneath their deck and then came up and, covered in leaves and bugs and spider webs and off to see somebody for a quote, because I wanted them to understand that I'm proud of what I do, that I am a professional. And you could tell that I was a tradesperson the minute you shook my hand, because it was like shaking a piece of sandpaper. I mean, there was no denying that I was a tradesperson. Couldn't go shopping for, sleepwear for my wife because of that silky stuff, because it always stick to your hand because your hands are so callous. But it was important for me to come across as a professional, and I wanted people to see that. I wanted them to understand that this is who I am. Yeah, I am a professional tradesperson, plumber, electrician, whatever you wanted to call yourself. So that's the perception that you want, that was important to me. That was my avatar. Other people may have looked at that guy showing up and not, well, what you do plumbing, like you do this, like your clothes are spotless, boots. And this is the thing. One of the reasons that I chose work boots is that there's a saying that you can judge a person by their footwear. Boots were always extremely important to me. The boots I had, shoes. Right? One, because I have bad feet, but two, because it was important for me to present that I was a professional. But if you looked at what I was wearing on my feet, oh yeah, it was steel toes. No, I wore Bluntstones, and this is not an endorsement of Bluntstones, but I just love wearing Bluntstone steel toes. Most comfortable work boot ever. So that was extremely important to me. I wanted to, and it was part of how I communicated it, because we talked about before how important communication is. I wanted to communicate whoever I was meeting with that I am professional. I wanted to separate myself, and nothing against, please don't take this the wrong way, the guys out there who do this. The painters who show up in painter's clothes that are covered in paint already. It's like, okay, that's fine. That was never my jam. If that's your thing, that's okay. I just look sideways at that kind of stuff. I guess it's like a surgeon walking around in scrubs that are like covered in whatever happens in the operating room or something. I don't know. Okay, I get it. You're a surgeon. You don't have to go out and you don't have to show everybody their bloody scrubs. But that was important to me. And it was the handyman or the handy person that would, rather than using a rag, would wipe their hands on the pants. And that's okay. And I know there are plumbers that do the same thing. When instead of using rag, they wipe their hands on the pants. I wanted to separate myself from them because I didn't want the client that chose me based on how cheap I was. I wanted them to choose me based on, my personality, my communication skills, the skill at what I would do, the experience, the process, everything else that came along
Value,
with
the
value.
value.
Yeah.
Well, what one of us wouldn't want to be hired on value and on the things that we think we're putting forth, or whatever our strong suit is, value or uh, whatever, longevity. It doesn't matter what you're selling. Is it going to last? Those types of things.
Absolutely. And I'll be perfectly honest. I'm from that generation where you had to go to university, college, go off, go get a college education, university education, go away for 4 years, come back with a graduate or undergraduate or whatever it is, and continue on and get your master's. And that was extremely important. I have three brothers. Only one of them attended university. And he's the one we invite over for Scrabble whenever we play Scrabble because he's the one who, just kidding. But there was a part of me that was just a little bit felt inadequate because I was a tradesperson. Because that was the perception back then. That in order to be something, and it's really changed. I mean, it's completely changed.
Oh, yeah.
But back then, there was a little bit of me that wanted to be, I'm a professional, I'm a contractor, I'm this and that. So that was part of it too, that I didn't want to be associated with that group, that other group, that I wanted to be a little bit better. So I wanted people to perceive me that way, which meant there were times when I would show up and I didn't seem like the run-of-the-mill contractor or tradesperson. It's like, wow, I didn't expect a plumber like you. I said, well, what were you expecting?
When
I
you
didn't
caught their
expect.
attention, good or bad, you caught their attention. Sounds like it was good, but you caught their attention because of how you present yourself.
Right. So that is the perception. So if you're communicating, and you're a tradesperson too. I mean, and I said that to you earlier. When I first met you, my perception of you was business person first, tradesperson second. And those are the people I want to associate with. So
Yeah.
from a consumer's perspective, I mean, we talked about me going through this whole journey of trying to find somebody to come do the fence in my backyard. And it was really,
Yeah, listen
really
to the last podcast, the one just before this one. You'll hear that story about Rick trying to get a fence.
trying to get a fence. That's right. And I've done a fence. I did a fence once before, and didn't realize until after all the posts were set that a piece of string does wonders for making sure that all your posts are lined up. But anyhow,
It's amazing.
yeah, anyhow, it was a friendly fence.
You made me think about a story, and this is a story about perception. What we're talking about, podcast about perception. The story I'm going to tell you about is a story about how things used to be, and I want you guys to relate this to what you're doing now. How are you showing up on the job? So my grandfather's father was a painter here in St. Louis, Missouri. And he would go to work in a suit and tie. And Rick just mentioned earlier about the painter showing up. I guarantee you every one of us got a visual of the painter that shows up. He's got his painter's whites on, but they're barely white anymore because they got 15,000 colors on it. And just this and that and caulking and whatever. But he went to work in a three-piece suit. Now, I don't know if you guys are aware, but a three-piece suit back then was about $20. Custom made three-piece suit. An ounce of gold was about $20 as well. He'd show up and he in his suit, he'd get to work and he would change into his painter's clothes. And he had a duster brush. It was 5 inches wide, and with the handle from tip to tip, that thing was about 11 inches long. And that was he would dust his work off with that. That was back before there was rollers and everything was hand painted.
Right.
Well, that duster was made of horsehair, and the bristles were about 6 inches long. And apologize, you guys probably think I'm Italian because I talk with my hands. But he would dust all of his work. That brush never saw any paint. It only dusted. He paid $20 for that thing over 100 years ago. When he would, and so putting value into your tools and how do we present ourselves? This was the norm back then. You did not see men walking around in the streets in anything but a suit. And if they were less than that, you might thought that they were indigent or a loafer or any of those other words that don't really get used anymore. But you'd have thought he was a bum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody went out looking like how everybody looks now, or maybe 30 years ago, how everybody would go to church. You went in you went presenting your best so that you could give your best presentation. That theme there is giving your best to God, showing up, and really putting an effort forth versus just rolling out of bed and showing up. If you go to church now, everybody's just kind of showing up sometimes, sweatpants and all that, and you'd have gotten chased out 100 years ago. So
that's right.
That story about how things used to be, but if you took our society now, our Western society, and took it back there and saw the women all done up with their hats and bonnets and really nice dresses and everything was pressed, and the men in their suits and everybody's smelling good, and the kids in their nice Sunday best, that would change your perception. Imagine if your contractor showed up in a three-piece suit to interview the customer about framing a house. I'm not saying you should do that, but would there be any harm in that? I guarantee you, suit, someone's going to pay much, much more attention to you than if you showed up in your painter's rags or your dirty work boots. And if I showed up my work boots, I like Red Wing work boots, by the way.
Okay,
that's definitely an endorsement because I love their product. But you see what I'm talking about, how things used to be. I say we bring back some of that, not only in personal life, but certainly in professional life, what we're talking about. How we show up is so important to that person. Rick just mentioned earlier, he thought I was always just a business professional. I'm a carpenter first. I've always been walking that line of sales and production as well. I've been on both sides of that, and I like both sides. I like what I do, but it annoys me when people don't. Maybe that's the wrong word. I like to clearly communicate, and I'm not the world's best communicator, and I know that. I don't like the sound of my voice on recording, but that's okay. I got to get over that. But I'm not the world's worst either, right? So I want to convey a message, but I like working with people. And I work with my hands. So how are you showing up to the job? That's the thought for the day, contractors.
I completely agree. And I was very much like your grandfather. Not that I wore a three-piece suit, but I would.
Great-grandfather, my grandfather's father.
Your great-grandfather, my apologies.
Yeah.
So I would show up in workwear, branded workwear, and then if I was on the tools, I would change.
Yeah.
And I would wear whatever I wore to do the work. And sometimes it got messy, and it didn't really concern me because those were my work clothes. And then when I would be finished, I would get changed back into my uniform and then go about my business. But it was important that the perception was, and this is the thing. So one of the guys, and please, for the trades guys out there, don't take this the wrong way. I'm a trades guy, plumber, gas fitter. He showed up, came in, wife let him in the house, my wife let him in the house, and he walked through, we don't have carpet, but he walked through with his work boots on, right into the kitchen. And you know where my eyes went? Right to his boots. And they may have been clean, but chances are they weren't. But you know what that told me? He communicated to me no respect. Because I certainly, and because this is the thing that I would do, is when we went into somebody's home, we'd have shoe covers that we would put on, or boot covers. And we would teach our guys, and this came from our coaches, we would teach our guys to say, It's about respect. I wouldn't do this in my home. I'm not going to do it in yours. Not, oh, my boss makes me do this.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Do we have to go to work or do we get to go to work? You know, that have to or get to mentality. Yeah.
Right. So that was my perception. But what was interesting is out of the prices that I got, and I didn't get 100, I got three prices. And I ended up with three. I was just going to get a couple, but I ended up getting three. Out of the prices, he came in the highest. So if you're going to come in and ask for, the most amount, can't do that kind of stuff. Maybe with somebody else, but not with me.
Yeah, you probably need to show up in the suit.
Yeah, shut up, is it? Yeah, 100%. So that's where it comes down to is perception. So contractors, be very careful how you project to the world. How you present to the world. There's a saying that goes something like this: how you do anything is how you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you show up to somebody's home or business and you drive a truck and it's a little bit older, nothing wrong with that, got some rust on it, nothing wrong with that, but it is organized, the dashboard is not jammed full of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
People see that. It's the perception. So be very careful. Very, very careful. And if you want to get that high-end clientele, you want to charge top dollar, you better show up. So people perceive that you're worth that kind of money, that they see that in you.
Yeah, that's right. And there's nothing wrong, as you mentioned earlier, Rick, about being a working guy and being proud of that. And if you are a working guy and you're not proud of that, um, reassess what you're doing. Uh, Take a long look in the mirror. But there's nothing wrong with being a working guy. There's also nothing wrong with showing up professionally, and maybe you keep an extra set of clothes in the truck so that when you bid jobs, let's say you bid jobs at the end of the day, nothing wrong with keeping Wednesday's fresh clothes in Tuesday night's bid. Keep that in your truck. Change your shirt. Hit the deodorant a little bit, if you can, and if not, make sure that the bid that you're going on is appropriate for how you're going to show up. Just give it some thought, and even if you don't agree with anything that we said, if our examples were terrible and you're Rob and Rick, you guys are morons, fine, I don't care. But if you want to get yesterday's actions brought you today's results. If you want tomorrow's results, you've got to do something different if you want to achieve something different. So, in my mind, do one thing. Take a look in the mirror and see what you could do better today than you did yesterday for that new client that you're showing up for. That's all we're talking about today. Everybody's different. Everybody has their own perceptions on how they should be. Knock yourself out. You're a grown adult. You guys pay your own bills. We're just giving you from our perspective. I had a plumber lose a job because he showed up dirty to a customer's house. It was a $60,000 remodel. I thought that was kind of funny. Most plumbers are not surgically clean. He didn't show up sloppy. He just showed up in something that wasn't, the stains weren't washed out of his shirt from that. It just carried over. So if you want to lose a $60,000 job, knock yourself out. Just put on a new work t-shirt. A vest like Rick's got. Throw something on for that 10-minute or hour-long bid you're going to give.
Absolutely, I love it. And again, and vests are, they've always been my thing for whatever reason, like Marty McFly. But so it is your clothing, and I don't care about beards. I really don't. I'm a fan of like really cool beards. I don't care about tattoos. Really don't. Kind of the face ones I'm still not into. The neck ones I'm okay with, but not the face tattoos. I'm not quite into those yet. I'm not saying that kind of stuff. So if you got sleeves on both arms, tattoos and everything, that's cool. I don't really care. Jewelry, the whole thing. It is the way you are dressed and the way you present yourself that I'm talking about. It's not how you look. It is or groomed. It is the way you look and the way you present yourself. So clothing and attitude, man, to me, that's what we're talking about here.
I think that puts a good fine point on it. I think your clothing and your attitude should match what you're showing up for.
100%.
But if you want to be a bit of an overachiever, if everybody wears blue jeans you can wear khakis. If everybody's wearing khakis, you wear suit pants. If everybody's wearing suit pants and a nice shirt, you wear a suit. If everybody's wearing a suit, you wear you wear
the tuxedo.
Best thing. That's right. You put on the word escaped. You put on a tux. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Just one notch better, right?
Yeah.
And that's
absolutely.
just take an honest look at yourself and your business. Where is it? Do you want to improve? Cool. If you want to improve, this is something you could do within the next 7 days. That's going to absolutely affect your bottom line. Just do one thing, document it, and watch, and ask for feedback too. If you've got regular clientele that you see, hey, do you ask them their opinion? What would you like in a new contractor if you had to hire, if you couldn't do business with me anymore, and you had to hire somebody else? What do you look for as far as their appearance? Ask them. I promise you, you'll learn at least one thing. It's going to help your business out. We're all here to make extra money. We're all here to do excellent work. We want to be better today than we were yesterday. And that's what we're talking about. We hope you guys got some value from this. Rick, before we head out, is there anything else that we should add to that, or anything else maybe that we forgot?
I don't think so. Just remember, the world and your clients are watching you.
Boy, isn't that the case? Someone's always watching.
So, good. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks, everybody. Please like, share, and subscribe for more content.
To learn more about Rick, go to workbootconsulting.com, and to learn more about Rob, go to sdlbr.com. Remember, communication is always a two-way street.